So this is a little commentary on the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32, verse 26. And this is dealing with the context of the nation of Israel being prophesied in the Song of Moses, going into captivity. And what will bring about that captivity will be the Most High causing spiritual blindness so that they can go deeper and deeper into sin and thus earning their judgment, and this is what happened to the so-called black man, the Negro that's been scattered to the four corners of the earth, the Negro Latino, the Negro the Negro Hispanic, in various communities throughout North, Central, and South America, Africa, the regions of Europe, wherever our people have been scattered to, primarily in these latter days via the transatlantic slave trade. We will lose our identity according to Deuteronomy 32 and verse 26. So this is a website called Video Bible. This is just a random website I clicked on. So this is Deuteronomy 32 and 26, the meaning. I said, I will scatter them and erase their name from human memory. So Deuteronomy 32 and 26 expresses God's deep frustration with Israel's repeated unfaithfulness and disobedience. In this verse, God declares that he considers scattering his people and erasing their name from human memory as a consequence of their persistent rebellion. This statement is not just about physical scattering, but it symbolizes a complete loss of identity, purpose, and legacy, a severe judgment where the people will be so far removed from God's favor that they will be forgotten entirely. This verse serves as a powerful reminder of the gravity of turning away from God. It illustrates that when a nation continually rejects God, it risks losing not only God's protection, but also its place in history. The idea of being scattered and forgotten emphasizes the seriousness of their actions and the deep impact of rejecting God's guidance and covenant. Historical context. This verse is a part of the Song of Moses, which Moses delivered to the Israelites as a reminder of their history and God as a warning about the consequences of continued disobedience. And read that part again. It says, this verse is a part of the Song of Moses, which Moses delivered to the Israelites as a reminder of their history with God and as a warning about the consequences of continued disobedience. Throughout their journey, Israel had seen God's incredible acts of deliverance, provision, and protection. However, they frequently fell into cycles of rebellion, idol worship, and disregard for God's commands. Moses recited this song to highlight the faithfulness of God and the repeated failures of the Israelites. The warning of the scattering and erasing Israel's name was not an empty threat, but a real possibility based on their behavior. It reflects the terms of the covenant. If they followed God, they will be blessed. If they rejected him, they will face severe consequences. This verse serves as a sobering reminder that God's patience, while great, is not without limits. Theological implications. Theologically, this verse underscores the seriousness of rejecting God and the consequences that come with prolonged unfaithfulness. It shows that God's blessings and protections are tied to obedience and faithfulness. When his people persistently turn away, they risk losing the very identity and purpose that God has given them. This verse teaches that God's judgment is not about punishment, it's about the loss of relationship and purpose that comes from abandoning God. This verse also highlights God's sovereignty over nations and history. It serves as a reminder that God is in control of the fate of his people and that their standing in the world is directly tied to their relationship with him. The warning to scatter and erase demonstrate that God's desire for his people is not just survival, but flourishing under his guidance and blessing. Literary analysis. Deuteronomy 32 and 26 uses a stark and powerful language to convey the potential consequences of Israel's rebellion. The phrase scatter them suggests a complete disbanding of the community, breaking apart the unity and strength that come from being a nation under God's protection. The idea of erasing their name from human memory is particularly severe, implying that they would be forgotten as if they had never existed. This literary approach emphasizes the ultimate consequences of turning away from God: total loss of identity, community, and legacy. This verse structure is direct and unembellished, making the warning feel immediate and serious. It serves to drive home the point that God's people must remain faithful or risk losing everything that makes them who they are. Relevant biblical cross references: Leviticus 26 and 33, I will scatter you among the nations and will draw out my sword and pursue you. Your land will be laid waste and your cities will lie in ruins. This passage echoes the themes of scattering as a consequence of disobedience. Psalms 106 and 27, to scatter their descendants among the nations and disperse them throughout the lands. This reflects the ongoing warning that God's people would be scattered if they continued to rebel. Jeremiah 9 and 16, I will scatter them among the nations, neither they nor their ancestors have known, and I will pursue them with the sword until I have made an end of them. This reinforces the idea of scattering as a severe form of judgment. What this verse means for today's Christians. For today's Christians, Deuteronomy 32 and 26 serves as a warning about the dangers of turning away from God. It challenges believers to remain faithful and to recognize that their identity and purpose are deeply rooted in their relationship with God. This verse encourages Christians to value the blessings of being God's people and to guard against anything that will lead them away from Him. This verse also reminds Christians that God's discipline is real and that His patience, while enduring, is not without limits. It calls believers to take their faith seriously, understanding that God's commands are given to us to keep from harm and to guide us into a life of purpose and blessing. It encourages a heart of humility and a commitment to stay close to God, recognizing the profound impact of our choices. How this verse relates to a loving God. Deuteronomy 32 and 26 reflects God's deep love for His people. Even in the face of severe judgment, God's willingness to warn His people about the consequences of their actions is a sign of His desire to see them return to Him. His goal is not destruction, but restoration. The threat of scattering and erasure serves as a wake-up call, urging His people to recognize the danger of their rebellion and to come back to safety of His guidance and care. God's love is evident in His willingness to discipline in order to correct. The warnings in this verse are not given lightly, but are part of God's overarching plan to preserve His people, to keep them close to Him. Even when His words are severe, they are motivated by a desire for a relationship, not retribution. How this verse connects to Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, so-called, embodies the ultimate hope for restoration and reconciliation. Through His life, death, and resurrection, Jesus addresses the consequences of sin and rebellion, offering a way back to God for all who have gone astray. Where sin scatters and separates, Jesus gathers and unites. He is the good shepherd who brings back the lost sheep, restoring them to the fold. Matthew 23 and 37, Jesus laments over Jerusalem, saying, "How often have I longed to gather you, your children, together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, and you were not willing." This echoes the heart of God expressed in Deuteronomy 32 and 26. The desire to gather and protect, even when his people are unwilling. Jesus' sacrifice provides the ultimate answer to the threat of scattering, bringing us into a secure relationship with God that cannot be erased.